Good afternoon, everyone. I am Baroness Morgan Cheney. For those of you who don't know me, I am here today to talk about serving on retinue, whether it be royal retinue or baronial retinue. Pretty much the same rules apply either direction. I am going to preface this with an apology. I'm having technical difficulties today. My computer that has all of my notes for this class refuses to open up and turn on. So I am doing everything from my phone and somewhat off the cuff. I do have a handout that will be available after the class as soon as I can get access to my computer again. If you would like to have a copy of the handout, just let me know afterwards and I'm happy to send it on to you. So without much more further ado, welcome to Serving on Retinue, otherwise known as the hardest job you will ever love. So I am currently serving as the aide-de-camp for Baroness Onstis and Baron Dougal of Cairta. I have served on multiple retinues in my 30 plus years in the SCA. And so pretty much if I don't know the answer, I can find out someone who does for you. I have served both baronial and royal retinues, and I really, really love this job. It gives me the opportunity to travel to different parts of the kingdom and to out of kingdom events that I might not otherwise have gone to. It has allowed me to meet new people and make some really good friends throughout the known world. And it's just generally fun for me to be part of the overall picture that or overall tapestry that paints the picture of the SCA and all its glory and pageantry and historical fun muchness. I like that word. So I just would kind of like to get a heads up of who is in the class with me. If there's some names I don't recognize, so if you have ever been on retinue before, please feel free to chime in later on when I have opened up the floor. If you have not been on retinue before, please feel free to ask questions along the way. With that, is there anyone who is serving or who is on the class who is currently or has recently been on a retinue? Raise your hands. Pardon me while I figure out how to make the hand raising thing show up on my computer or my phone.
Looks like I might be the only one that's raising their hand, so if that helps you. I'm Melodia.
Thank you, Melodia. That does help me. Gosh, Mistress Magda, Maestra Magda, before. Are you just sneaking around back there hiding from me?
I'm here. It's just been a while since I've done the retinue, and I'm going to retinue for the next King and Queen of Artemisia. So I figured I should brush up.
Well, thank you for joining my class. I'm excited to have you here. For those of you who don't know Maestra Magda, she is one of ours. She's just temporarily on loan to Artemisia. That's what I tell myself anyway. I knew her before she was Magda, so we grew up together in the SCA.
Yes, we did.
So anyway, so really the biggest, let's just kind of start with the roles that are in part of being on retinue. So generally there is the steward or the head of house, or in my case, my official unofficial title is aide-de-camp, and that's kind of the secretary of the household. They work closely with their excellencies or their majesties, depending. Keep an up-to-date list of what events they're going to, any pre-event needs, such as working with making sure they have all the pieces, parts that they need, their chairs, their largesse, their regalia, everything gets to the event with them, and then also working with the head of captain of the guard and the head lady in waiting to make sure that everybody that their staff is where they need to be and when they need to be. And then we also oftentimes serve as a bit of a sounding board or emotional support shoulder to lean on for our excellencies or majesties, depending. For the remainder of the class, I'm probably just going to say excellencies. 99% of the time that term can be interchanged for majesties, depending on the type of retinue that you're on. So then there is the largesse coordinator, which is technically part of retinue, and they are the ones who keep track of what we have and what we need as far as largesse, which is, if you don't already know, those are the types of, those are basically the gifts that their majesties, or see, then I did it, I said majesties. Majesties or excellencies are going to be giving either to the autocrats of the events. Sometimes they have largesse that they give to other landed nobles or royals, depending on where they're at. Sometimes they just like to have largesse items that they can just give to members of the populace as a thank you, or a well done, or a welcome gift. And some also choose to have largesse items that they use to thank their staff for working at an event. I was recently lady in waiting for former Baron and Baroness of Dragonspine, Gianni and Jeanette, and they gave fibulas with beads to each of their staff members after an event. So it was kind of like getting paid, and it was fun to collect all of those. So those are all the things that the largesse coordinator is in charge of, making sure to keep track of what's coming in, because people like to give largesse as gifts to the nobles and the royals, and what is going out. Excuse me, sorry. Then we also have the captain of the guard, which is somewhat self-explanatory. Captain of the guard is the gentle who is in charge of the guard, making sure that they do the recruiting, help with the recruiting to the guard, making sure that the guard has a schedule and that they know where to be and when to be. It's a pretty big job. They are also the one who would be helping to organize, set up and tear down at equipment or at encampments when we do camping events, and also of things like the thrones at our indoor events, making sure that everything gets in and out of the royal room, all of that sort of thing. And the head lady in waiting is sort of a personal assistant. They work with their royals and nobles to ensure that they have other retinue people involved. When I say retinue in this instance, mostly we're talking about ladies in waiting, lords in waiting, or attendants, with the advancement of recognizing that we have more than just she and him. We are also using terms like attendant to be more inclusive, rather than just saying ladies in waiting. So those events, as we all try to remember to be inclusive, those two words, that lady in waiting or attendant, are starting to become more interchangeable and moving more towards attendant, so that we are more gender neutral and inclusive. And then of course you have your guards and your attendants / ladies, lords in waiting. And those are the guards are the ones who literally are guarding their space. They're guarding the royal or baronial space. They are making sure that their excellencies or majesties have proper escort from place to place throughout an event. They are making sure that they are not interrupted when they are having private conversations or meetings. They help make sure that things get set up and taken down at the end, set up at the beginning and taken down at the end. Apologies, tripping over my tongue. Things like the thrones or chairs, pavilions, things like that. getting cars loaded and vehicles loaded and unloaded. That's sort of a guard thing. Attendants also help with that. And then the attendants are there to be basically to attend. They make sure that their royals or nobles have their water and their sunscreen and their food, and if they need a pen or if they need to run errands, all of those sorts of things. And then lastly, part of retinue is also all of our positions of honor. So my brain has just shut down. Things like the warder and warden, who are our two archery positions of honor in Cairta. Things like Princess Protector, that is a position of honor, but it is also a retinue position. So all of those types of things, the Baronios or Kingdom Herald is also part of the retinue. So all of those people who make up the household, not necessarily in a familial manner, but in a this group of people all work together manner of when I say household, speaking of royal household or baronial household. So are there any questions on any of that, as who is in retinue and who isn't, and who does what kind of job? And I really have a hard time with the raise the hand thing, so if you have a question, please feel free to speak it out as well. Okay, so moving on. And there's a couple of things that are important to know when serving on a retinue. Unless absolutely necessary, never leave your royal/noble completely alone. There are times where you will need to step away a bit and give them space to have private conversations, but they should be attended at all times. Preferably, and you'll know more based on the individual's needs and likes and dislikes, but preferably a royal, especially when we're talking about like our queen or our baronesses, should always have at least one guard and one attendant with them. Occasionally something will come up and you will need to run an errand, and that's okay. If they need you to run an errand, then they say, I'll be fine for a few minutes, go ahead and run the errand. But it's mainly to make sure that we keep that picture of the pageantry and the, part of our job is the set dressing. If you think of it in terms of theater, we may be the supporting part, but we are an integral part of making the scene look the way it should. So that's why we don't ever want to leave our royals unattended. Plus, part of our job is to run interference. And so if our royal is in a private conversation, leaving them unattended opens them up for being interrupted. One thing you will learn as a part of retinue is that you will oftentimes be privy to things you would not otherwise hear. You will sometimes inadvertently be part of a private conversation, and just remember that integrity is important in this job. Always just let those things that you hear that you shouldn't necessarily hear just go in one ear and right out the other, and try not to retain anything. It's one of those what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas kinds of things. I would assume that most people would know better than to spread what they hear a royal talking about or a noble talking about, but it's so important that I always like to mention it in the class. Another one of our important tasks is to make sure that they aren't doing something they shouldn't be. Now, with some retinue, with some royals and nobles, this is really an easy job. They never do things that they shouldn't do. But sometimes, if you're at a party at night and you've had a few too many things to drink, you forget the rules of engagement. And so part of our job is And if
You're
if,
muted. Yeah, okay.
oh, sorry. Yeah, my phone rang. I apologize. I had to turn it back on. So just make sure they're not doing anything. Make sure they're not doing, and part of that is even making sure that they're not the ones carrying the heavy box of items, or wearing their cornet and putting the thrones up or the pavilion up. It's just those things that keep, again, keep the scene going and fluid. Our royals should be, and nobles should be royal and noble, and not doing the hard, heavy lifting work, unless they say, no, I really want to do this, in which case remind them gently to remove the coronet and or crown from their head, which is their symbol of their nobility. And then, they are more than welcome to continue helping out. Always have a pen and paper with you, because you will oftentimes need to write something down that their excellencies or majesties don't have time to stop and dig a piece of paper out for. And the number one thing for me, anyways, is to be aware of the time and their schedule. So if you are one of those people who does not like to have any kind of modern timepiece showing, I recommend finding something that can hang like a pendant, where on one side it just looks like a piece of jewelry, on the back side there's a clock, or finding a way to hide your cell phone so that it looks like a tablet, not modern day tablet, but like wax tablet, so that you always are aware of the time, because oftentimes they need to go quickly from one place to another. And if they get sucked into conversation, they may not be aware of how much time has passed. So, some of the really important things on being retinue is that it's our job to take care of them. So make sure that they are getting water, that they are applying sunscreen, that they have eaten. And you will learn pretty quickly what your particular person needs. When I was serving on Her Grace Anna's retinue, she has very significant signals that she will give off when she is getting dehydrated. You learn that quickly, and you know whether she asks you for it or not. Here's some water, Your Majesty, please have a drink. Or Her Excellency Jeanette has certain signals that she would give off when she was starting to get worn out and needed to sit down and rest. So you learn those signals, you make sure that they're doing what they need to do to help take care of themselves so that they can continue to serve the rest of us. And then also remember, when you are on, especially when you're on duty, but throughout the entire time that you are serving on a retinue, that you are a representative of that particular noble or royal. And so always try to remember to conduct yourself with honor and grace. Make sure that you are giving the proper courtesies to the proper people. Just again, it always goes back to painting the picture and making sure the scene is right. And then the number one most important thing that I have learned is that make sure that while you are doing this work, that you are having fun. Because if it's not fun, it's going to show on your face, and then it's going to take away the fun from everyone else. So if you get to the point where you are no longer having fun, don't suffer in silence. Let somebody know, I need a break. It's okay to be that person that needs a break. Nobody's going to say anything negative about it. Just take the initiative to tell someone, I can't stand here any longer. I need to go sit down and take care of myself. Grab the next closest retinue person and take care of yourself, because you can't take care of them if you can't take care of themselves. So, any questions so far? Okay. So there's a couple more things I want to for sure go over. Make sure when you are serving on retinue that you use the proper titles. So if I am serving Mistress Magda. She's the Baroness of the Barony of Hoosie Bottoms. Then I am not going to walk up to her and say, in a public situation, and say, "Hey, Magda, how's it going?" I'm going to be, "Good morning, Your Excellency. How are you today? Is there anything I can do to help you?" Just remembering the time and place, and make sure you're using proper titles. Make sure you're showing the respect to the office that they are in, the position that they are serving. And then also remember that we are all always people, and we can all have bad days. And sometimes even baronesses and barons and kings and queens have off days. So one of the big perks, I think, to being on retinue is being able to stand in court with your noble or royal, and you get to have a bird's eye view, sort of, so to speak, of all of the fun things that happen in court. You get to be able to see the reactions on people's faces when they're giving awards. You get to actually hear what their nobles and royals are saying about that person and find out why someone is getting an award. And in the case of some nobles I have been watching in court, you'll be able to actually hear what the award is, because some have better projection than others. But when you are standing in court, there are some rules to remember. Try to always either have a smile on your face or a neutral face. Try not to have any scowls or RBF going on. That can be hard because court can get long. But try to remember to keep a smile or neutral look on your face. Even the guards, we want guards to have as much fun as the rest of us. So you don't need to look ferocious, unless, of course, your person that you're guarding is literally being threatened, in which case jump in, be ferocious, do all you need to do. Try not to fidget or slouch. Make sure you don't lock your knees so that you don't pass out. And my number one pet peeve watching from the populace is when members of the retinue lean against or hang off of the royal chair, or the baronial chairs, or the thrones. It's a no-no. Just don't do it. If you are serving on a retinue that I am the head of or a member of, I am more than likely going to give you a gentle reminder not to do it. It looks bad. It looks like you don't care and that you are just there to hang out, and that's not what court is all about. So every piece of business that occurs in court is important to someone. So even while it may not be important to you, it may be your 723rd witnessing of an AOA, the person who's getting that AOA, it's there first, and it's important. So try to always remember that even if you're starting to get tired of the 6-hour court, whatever is happening in front of you is important to at least 3 people, those giving the award and the one receiving it. And then the last piece that I really want to go about is caring for royal stuff. When you are handed a coronet to hold on to while their excellencies, or a crown for their majesties, don't just grab it. I don't know if you can see my hand, like just grab it like that. Hold it with your palms or the tips of your fingers. That piece of regalia is a symbol, and it should be treated with as much respect as the person, if not more, than the person underneath it. So try to remember that. The other thing is, especially if with a coronet or a crown, fingerprints are so hard to get off. Smudges are easier to clean. So make sure that if you're using flat hands to hold things, you're less likely to get fingerprints on the metal of the coronet or crown. One of the first things I recommend doing, especially if you were a member of Guard, is learning how to put those thrones and chairs together. Some have been in use for so long and such a piece of our history that if they are mistreated in the slightest, they will be injured. And I say injured because, and rather than broken, because to me it's like a piece of a piece of the family, a member of the family was injured when one of the royal thrones is broken and can no longer be used, or somebody accidentally dropped the royal scepter and the tip broke off of it, just things like that. So always remember to be gentle with those things because they are our history. And then please, 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 if you are on retinue, stick around at the end and make sure that the people who are signed up to help with cleanup are actually there. And if you have the time, jump in and help, because many hands do make light work. And at the beginning of an event, even if you are not on duty for that day, but especially if you are on duty for that day, please check in with either your head of house, the head lady in waiting, or the captain of the guards, because that way we know for sure that Sue, who is supposed to be on duty in 2 hours, has arrived. And then in 2 hours, I'm not running all over the site looking for Sue, who's supposed to be on duty, only to find out she never arrived. So those are the main things. And then again, just remember that we as in the other members of retinue, want this to be fun for you as well. So if you're not having fun, tell somebody, and maybe it's time for a different position for a little while, or just a break. I'm trying to think, because again, I'm going off the cuff with my notes. Oh, in court, our job as retinue in court, generally there is a lady in waiting who is kind of aligned to the herald and is making sure that scrolls and medallions are getting passed from one to the next, from us to the royals or nobles, and then to the recipient of the award. So that's really important, making sure that things stay on track that way. And making sure that the items behind the thrones are where they need to be. I've more than once gone in and had things set up for court, only to go back and find that someone thought that something shouldn't have been there and moved it. And then in the middle of court, it's been a question of, wait, where did it go? So just make sure that you're not moving things around once they're set. And again, make sure you're having fun. So it's really a fun job. It really is. You're going to get to meet a lot of people that you wouldn't necessarily have met. You're going to learn things about the SCA. You're going to see different aspects of the SCA that you might not have seen before. It's just, like I said, the hardest job you're ever going to love. So with that, I will open things up to questions and comments and tidbits of information from anyone else.
That was an excellent presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I did have a couple of other things that in my time on retinues, might be helpful.
Sure, please.
Know your order of precedence for the chairs.
Yes, that is important. Kadkafa.
I don't know how many times they have to be rearranged because everybody gets them in the wrong order.
Yeah, there is it used to be Kadkafa, but now we have to add on the end because we have Arkell.
Right.
But yes, that is important. Very good. Good. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. The other thing is I like to carry and have with an attendant either a basket or a purse or something that has a bunch of things that might be needed. And have, being able to anticipate what your baroness, baron, their majesties need before they need it, and having it right there.
Yes.
Like one of my favorite things. I'm like,
thank you.
There you go.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that, I believe, was actually on my list, and because I always have it, I tend to forget that other people don't know to
Yeah.
have that. So thank you for mentioning that. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, having those tissues or handkerchiefs,
Tissues, safety
you
pins,
know. Yeah. Oh,
whatever
yes.
sunscreen they
Yes.
use, extra bottle of water, all of those things. I
Yeah.
have a lady in waiting bag
So
that
do
is
I.
specific just for that I carry all those things in. So good addition to the list. Thank you.
Needle and
You're welcome.
thread,
Yes, definitely needle and thread. Good.
black and white.
Yeah.
You can get away with anything.
Yes, definitely. Another good item to add.
Yeah, there's so many things.
I like to have
Breath
cough drops.
fresheners, toilet paper.
Yep.
If the portas don't have toilet paper,
Yep.
just there's so many things that you can put in the bag that are so helpful. Mirrors, a mirror.
Mirrors. I usually find out what brand of lip balm my people, because here in the Outlands everything is always so dry outside. I like to find out what brand of lip balm my person likes, and then I have that in the bag.
Yep.
And oftentimes
and especially these days, keep it only for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a for them thing. Same with throat lozenges. If somebody has, if your person has a particular brand of throat lozenge that they like, I like to keep those in my bag too. And then pain reliever. So if I had one Royal who could not take any kind of Advil, Aleve, Tylenol type of substance, I had to, so I always had to make sure I had actual aspirin in my purse or my bag for that person. So those are good, all good things. And then you also like to find out what kind of snacks they like. I do that. Well, like her Countess Ingrid, she's a peanut M&M girl. So I always had peanut M&Ms in my bag for her, because the last thing you want is a hangry Royal.
Have a Snickers bar.
Exactly. So, anyone else have any comments or questions, concerns? So,
yeah, just say if you have a question. Someone has their hand up, so
I can't see that on my phone. So if you have a question, just blurt it out.
Hello, this is Gwen.
Huh?
So besides my Baron loving to try and disappear on me because he hated having a retinue, we also developed secret signals so that he couldn't be extricated without being rude. So like, if he rubbed his left leg with his right foot, I knew I had to come up and say, "I'm sorry, sir, you have a meeting with Baron Lou of Porta," and could usher him away from whoever was taking up his time. So just the little secret signals to do different things. Excellent idea. Excellent. Yeah, disappearing barons and baronesses are lots of fun. Yeah, Baroness, well, Countess now, Mage, she's real good at disappearing. As tiny as she blends into the crowd, and it's very hard to find her sometimes. So those are always fun, and she had signals. So yeah, that's a definite bonus thing to work out those signals. Thank you for adding that.
Yeah, it's really hard sometimes for the nobles and royals to let people do things for them.
Very hard.
Yeah, so gently reminding them that your retinue wants to do this and to set this tableau for other people, that this isn't for them, it's for other people.
Right.
Let the retinue do their job.
Yep.
Please let me do my job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, to remember as retinue, you will, once you've been with a particular noble or royal for a while, you will learn when they are reaching the end of their rope, and that's a good time to just maybe jump their signal a little bit and say, "Hey, I think we had this thing, and you need to go home and you need to go back and get changed. You asked me to make sure you had enough time to get changed." So, so that they can have that moment to step away from the limelight and just breathe for a minute and reset themselves. Sometimes I know with Duchess Anna, she was on the go from the time we woke up till the time I finally made her go to bed at night. So sometimes it really was a matter of you have to take that little bit of control and say, did you forget that you need to change for this next event? Let's go back to the camp and get you changed. So that she could literally go back and just not have people staring at her for 15 minutes while she ate a sandwich. And, so especially at our bigger events where there's so much going on, you'll learn those signals, those nonverbal signals that they're not even necessarily giving. That they need a moment because they are people and they can't continue to do their job and let you do your job if they fall out in the middle of court. So, anybody have anything else?
As much fun as it is to take care of them, don't forget to take care of yourself because you're no good to them when you're broken.
Oh, I don't know. I did a pretty good job being broken and still being on retinue.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the other kind of broken?
Yeah, you know, heat exhaustion, not eating, not drinking water. Yes, I am looking at you there because I watched you do that so many times way
Yes.
back when.
So do as I say, not as I
Yes.
do. Yeah.
But
no,
it's important.
It is important. It's very important. Make sure that you take care of yourself because you can't take care of them if you don't.
Yeah, behind the thrones, have a mug for yourself, not just for your people.
Right. And for those really long courts, have a plan to swap out partway through.
Amen.
I don't know if Battlemore Court is super long, final court, but it's like short compared to Estrella Grand Court. And if you've ever sat through Estrella Grand Court, you'll know that you don't want to stand through all of one. So you definitely need a plan to swap out people during those long courts. And that is a job that your head lady in waiting and head of house, aide de camp, royal steward, whatever job title they're happening to be using, that's something that they will definitely be working with you on. And they also, those people they've done the job before, most likely. They've done whatever job it is that you're doing before. So they're good people to mentor with if you have questions. You shouldn't be afraid to talk to your head lady in waiting and your heads of household and your captains of the guard, because they should be there for you just as much as they are there for their people, their royals and the nobles. So if you're in one of those positions and you're not there for the people who are helping you serve, then you're not serving anyone very well. That's just my personal opinion, but. Okay, well, if nobody has anything else, we still have 20 minutes left, but I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. I was hoping that we would have a little more questions, but I totally understand that some people just need to absorb and come back with questions later. So I am always happy to answer questions and help out. Maybe not, because I am also Kingdom MOL, so maybe not in the middle of Crown Tournament. That might not be a good time to ask me questions, but pretty much any other time, I try to be very approachable. So if you have questions or want to know more about being on retinue, please feel free to talk to me. Or if you have ideas about what would make being on retinue more fun, please come talk to me about that as well. Or if you want to be on retinue, but you're not quite sure how to approach the person that you want to serve, you can also talk to me about that, because that can be hard. You can say, oh gosh, I want to be on retinue, but how do I do it? Well, who do I do? What do I do? So generally, it's okay to just go either to your noble or royal, and whether it be via a message, a note, an email, or just, speaking to them one-on-one and say, hey, I would really like to do this. Once they are actually in their position, it might be a little harder to approach them directly, but then that's what people like me, the aide de camp, that's our job. So if you are interested in helping, come to us. And all of the people who are working as a head of household, no matter which type of household it is, should be there for people to be able to jump in and say, hey, I'd like to help. So, anything else? Anybody? Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us.